In terms of that, what did you guys have to do in terms of, your UCAS, your entrance tests for different universities? Can you speak a little bit about that? Because we get like tons of students that want to do medicine, dentistry, and we get questions all the time on, what's the application process like? What tests do I have to do? What GCSE grades do I need? What A-level grades do I need?
Yeah.
Can you guys speak a little bit about that?
I think that's definitely something that my school did very well. So I went to Ilford County, and they had a excellent UCAS tutor.
I actually didn't know that. I did too.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to Ilford County, but as soon as I got to year 12, the UCAS team were on it. They told me exactly what to expect, what to do, and they had a track record of getting people into medicine, so that definitely helped. In terms of what you have to do, it's probably changed a bit since, but you have your UCAS application that everybody does, but it's a lot sooner, so it's a few months sooner, and you also have entrance examinations depending on what universities you want to go to. So I applied to 3 unis which take the BMAT exam, so which is a type of entrance examination. There's the BMAT, and then there's the UKCAT, which is now the UCAT. They're like aptitude tests. They're really weird to describe. I don't know how to describe it. If you've done the 11 plus, it's a bit like that. It's like non-verbal, verbal.
It's very weird and abstract. And the BMAT is different in the sense that it has an essay portion attached to it, and it's got a science portion, and again a weird non-verbal, verbal reasoning side of things. But with the BMAT, fewer unis take that examination or accept it. So it's the case of you need to weigh up. Is it worth me doing another entrance exam? And it only is accepted by, I think, UCL, Imperial,
and
Oxbridge.
Cambridge.
And, Oxbridge, Oxford and Cambridge. And Leeds, something like that.
Yeah, something random. But I think I did the UKCAT, which is, then the UKCAT, and I didn't do well in it. Because it's a really difficult exam to know how well you did, and you get the results, and it's just...
You do it in the driving, if anyone's on their theory test, you do it in the driving test centre, and then you literally get your results as soon as. So at that point in time, you'll know, okay, let me be strategic. Where am I going to apply? Where am I not going to apply?
For the UCAT, but not for the BMAT. For the BMAT, you get the result after you've applied.
They've changed it now.
Oh, have they?
Yeah, so you can sit the BMAT twice. So essentially with entrance exams, you'll do them in the summer of year 12. But before that point as well, you need to look at your universities and their entry requirements. A lot of universities for medicine, you need to do biology A-level and chemistry A-level. And majority of people will end up just doing maths A-level as well, just to complete that trio. So I think it's important to know, you make sure by your GCSE grades, you have enough good grades to be able to do those A-level subjects. So it's quite an early decision you need to kind of think about.
It does start at GCSE, you're right.
Yeah.
Because you need to have a certain amount of GCSE grades, because a lot of unis will look at that and they factor it all into. Different unis work in different ways, so some of them care more about GCSE. So I know Oxford, for example, they weight it quite heavily on GCSEs, and other unis look at different things.
But and then during year 12, obviously you're doing your A-levels and hopefully doing decently. And then you want to do work experience at some point as well. So whether that's going to be in a GP practice, or some people just do it in care homes, even dental practices, because it's very hard to be able to get a GP practice. Even during COVID, I've seen people doing virtual work experience because of how difficult it was to attain actual work experience inside a clinical setting. So there's that. Then the summer of year 12, you'll do your entrance exam. So either the UCAT or the BMAT.
Or both.
Or both, which we both did. So the UCAT, you get your results straight away. And the BMAT, I believe it has 2 opportunities for you to sit it. I think one in September and then one in November. And you send off your UCAS application in October of year 13. So with the UCAT, you get your results straight away. If you do well, you can just say to yourself, don't want to do the BMAT. I'm going to apply to whatever unis you choose to apply to. If you do the BMAT in September, I think you get your results just before you send off your application. So you still have an idea of, will I get into these unis? Will I not get into these unis?
Yeah, that must be new, because I did the later BMAT and I was basically putting all my eggs, because I knew I didn't do well in the UCAT. I had to
put all your eggs in one basket.
Put all my eggs in one basket, but it worked out.
Yeah, and then following that, after you do your entrance exams, it's basically, that's it. You send off your UCAS, it's a waiting game. So you're just waiting patiently to hear back with interviews. So not even waiting back to hear back with offers, but waiting back for interviews. So it can take a while. Some unis, you may hear back in a few weeks. Some, it could be months. So it's a very interesting period of time.
So stressful. Some don't get back to you at all.
Yeah, some don't get back to you at all. So yeah, you'll be hearing like an update on your UCAS application and it's like, oh, you've been rejected already. So I think one thing that I learned during that time is just to be prepared for anything. Like you can plan how like your life is going to go. Like I'm going to get into X uni, do this, do that. And you could just be thrown a curveball and you just need to learn to adapt to it.
Kind of like how you took a gap year, right?
Yeah, what a good segue.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was going to go for it.
Yeah, so basically I applied to UCL and I think I was like in the later application cycle. So when you start applying and stuff, like you learn they kind of do everything in batches. So I think I was in like one of the later batches with UCL. So I remember I did my interview, thought it went quite well, and it was just like a panel interview. So I was just talking to a few like old doctors essentially, and I think they were talking about my personal statement, talking about my BMAT exam, and just a few other things. Anyways, I remember I was in my common room I think like a few weeks later, and then I just look at my email, I'm like, oh my god, I've got an offer from UCL. I was so excited, and then everyone's here celebrating with me, and then I look at the date and I'm like, wait, I said this starts for 2018, like my offer was deferred. I was like, what year are we in, guys? I was convinced that like they just wrote the wrong year on my email. But yeah, as I read the email, it was like a deferred entry offer. So essentially, we want you, but not this year. We'll have you for the following year. And I was like, oh, like I didn't expect that. Like that was something that I had never considered, kind of taking a gap year involuntarily almost. So I remember I was so upset and I was like, oh my god, I'm not starting uni with everyone else. I'm gonna be so old by the time that I start. What am I gonna do with this whole 1 year? Like, and especially where I think unlike Ibrahim, I didn't really go to the most academic school, let's say, and in terms of people applying to medicine, it was like a minority. So everything that we learned by ourselves. Like we were very much fending for ourselves. There wasn't really a support system there, which I don't know if it's changed since, but I hope so. So yeah, so I think I just had to mentally kind of prepare myself for what this next year is going to be like, because I really did want to go to UCL. I've been to so many open days, so many other like outreach events that they hosted, and I was like, I really do see myself at this uni. I'm willing to take this year out. And essentially, I don't have to do anything. It's not like I have to reapply. Like, my offer's just there waiting for me. And then I started uni, and I'm like, wow, there was other people in a similar situation to me who'd been given a deferred entry offer. There's people there who are, like, in their late 20s.
People that have children.
People that have children studying medicine. People that have done one degree, and then now they're doing medicine afterwards. And I'm just like, wow, like, do you think this is the worst thing that's ever going to happen to you? At that point in time, I was like, this is the worst thing that has ever happened to me. And especially being someone who's quite, like, academic and I'm meant to do everything like in a stepwise fashion. This was like a spanner in the works essentially. And I was like, wow, it wasn't that deep. All in all, and I enjoyed my gap year. I think it was like a good time off.
Yeah, it's difficult though, because in the moment it really is the be all and end all. And I think even now when I go to like those open interview kind of days, there's helping out MMI practice kind of days at local high schools and stuff. Like you can tell, I just remember being in that position as well when I was like in year 12, year 13. It really is the be all and end all. As soon as you get into medicine, you're like, wow, what was I worried about? There's so many different paths, there's so many different ways. And even once you're there, like it's a whole other game. Like there's so many other things to think about. So my biggest advice would be to not be too hard on yourself, because there's so many ways. You can do medicine abroad. You can like take a gap year like you did. Yeah. You can do a degree and then...
No, go. I'll speak.
You can do another degree. You can do there's just so many ways into medicine. So don't be too hard on yourself. Essentially.
Yeah, 100%. It isn't the be all and end all going to university. Like just do whatever you're comfortable doing, and you'll be committed to doing. Because 6 years that we did, like it's going to be a long degree.
Yeah, be sure is the other thing. Like you have to be sure. I think we spoke a little bit about work experience, but it's so necessary that you have that, because if I didn't do it, I wouldn't have known that this is what I want to do. But on the flip side, I could have done it and completely not liked it. And I'm so glad that now that having gone through 5 years, done my clinical years as well, that I made the right decision, having had that sort of experience. So do your experience, make sure that it's not a decision that you take lightly, because it's long. Like 5 years in, I'm approaching the finish line, but it is very long.
It's long.
It's exhausting. People say that A levels are the most difficult exams you do. That's not true. That's definitely not true. Yeah.
That's why I looked at you.
Yeah, no, I was going to bring up Nikhil. So my brother's done medicine abroad. He's really enjoyed it. But just, I'll come back to that in a second. Just before I forget, touching on two things: the two tests, the BMAT and the UKCAT. How did you guys revise for those? Like how much time, sort of out of your normal A-level studying, did you guys dedicate towards those two?
So with
those two
me,
exams?
I still did like my AS exams in year 12. I think that's completely scrapped though now for like majority of subjects. So I think I finished that in like May, June. And then from that point onwards, I was attending like sixth form, but I was mainly focused on like applying to medicine. So I'll probably say like an hour or two.
A week?
Yeah, like 4 days, like every couple of days or so.
Right.
Yeah, so maybe in total like 5 hours a week, roughly.
Okay.
Give or take. They would always tell you there's like courses that people recommend for you to go on. Whether I would recommend them, I haven't been on any. I've been on like one personally, and like it was okay, but I don't know if I would like shell out for all of these UKCAT courses or UCAT courses. There's loads of books as well that you can get with practice questions, just so you can get familiar with the examination process. But it's interesting because I think there's this theory as well. I don't know if you've heard this, that the less you revise for it, the better you do, because you're not overthinking the answers, where it's like quite abstract and like verbal reasoning, and it's very 11 plus. Like if you think too hard, like, and especially where it's very time pressured, you might just end up just, I don't know, picking the wrong answers. So I met a boy who didn't know he needed to do it. He did it in a week and he ended up scoring like amazingly high, which is insane.
I think a lot of it's instinct.
Yeah, so I think like gut feeling answers.
Yeah. Somewhere written there. Yeah.
Go with your gut. So I think that's one part. And then with the BMAT, I think, so there's three sections of the BMAT. The first section is meant to be GCSE science. So you don't really have to revise excessively for that because it's like essentially GCSE science, which is not the truth, but it's a bit harder, but it's fine. And then the second section, I believe, is like, again, verbal reasoning, aptitude stuff. So again, it just relays on from like the UKCAT revision you would have done prior. And then the third section is an essay, and it's like I was doing history AS, like I was doing history A level, so that wasn't too bad, like me writing essays and stuff. I was kind of used to it. So also, you'll see, again, loads of courses for the BMAT. You can get loads of books as well, revision books. And I think there's more like online courses now, like question banks that you can do.
So I use the website called Medify, I think it's called. I don't know if that's right. But it was a website that was really good. People say that you can't really revise for the UKCAT and the BMAT. I don't know, I'm kind of in the middle. It's like you should do some to get familiar with the questions, but I would agree that, you sort of hit a peak.
Yeah.
And your best is going to be your best. So I think I did like maybe a week of revision in the summer for the UKCAT. Because I think I did it in the summer if I remember correctly. So I took like a week out just doing that. And similar thing for the BMAT as well.
Thanks for watching this clip of the Education Lounge podcast. To watch another clip, click up here or here. To watch the full episode, click somewhere down here. And don't forget to like and subscribe, as it really helps the algorithm.
The Education Lounge podcast.